It's time for Around the Ozarks Sports Scene, brought to you by Colton Steakhouse and Thompson Sales. Here's your host, Scott Purrier.
Welcome into another edition of Around the Ozarks Sports Scene. I am Scott Purrier. As always, thank you for tuning in, listening in, watching, whatever you're doing to consume the Around the Ozarks Sports Scene podcast. We appreciate it. Big thank you to our sponsors, Thompson Sales and Colton Steakhouse. We will talk more about them a little bit later in the podcast, too, as well. So, special guest with me today is the producer, director, head honcho behind one of the great things I've seen here lately. It's the Voice Unbroken documentary about Art Hains and his legendary career in broadcasting, but mostly his comeback, his inspiring comeback to get behind a microphone again after contracting West Nile virus back in the fall of 2022. Dena is a Springfield native. She's a Glendale grad, a Drury grad, now lives in Kansas City. Dena, thanks for joining me today on the podcast.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks for having me.
You bet. I saw the Springfield one night premiere of Voice Unbroken back a couple Thursdays ago, and just was floored by how well done it was. 55 minutes worth of Art story, and I, like I said on the radio show with Art and Ned that we do on 102.1 The One, it got a little dusty in that theater apparently, because there were times where I got a little choked up just watching the emotion of Art's family. And, you know, I said the main thing I took away was just a greater appreciation, even more so than I had already, for what Art's family has been through as kind of Team Art Hains. And if there was one thing you took away from the finished product, what would it be?
I think the same thing you talked about. A lot of people, even Art himself, said after he watched it for the first time at the premiere in Springfield, he's like, I didn't even know some of the information that was in the video because Scott, his son Chris said some things in there that he wasn't aware of because he was, just trying to survive at that point. So that and his inspirational story. I do inspirational documentaries. This is my first feature with an original score and original song. But my whole purpose and I think passion and drive is to actually show inspirational videos of people going through, hard times or almost impossible odds and coming through it, and how attitude and faith play such a big role in that.
Absolutely. And of course, again, that was a one night only showing, but thanks to the folks at Alamo Draft House, they're bringing it back for two more showings that we know of. There may be more down the road, but
Right.
one of those is this Saturday at 12:30 p.m. at Alamo, and then next Tuesday night, November 18th at 6:55 p.m. So you've got two more chances here in the next week or so to see Voice Unbroken. You can go to the Alamo Draft House website, buy your tickets online, and highly encourage you to do so because it's fabulous. And I know that you've had a showing in Kansas City before this podcast. We're taping it on Wednesday of this week. And then there's one tomorrow night on Thursday night in Art's hometown of Marshall.
That's correct.
Talk about the reception in Kansas City, how that went, and what you anticipate tomorrow night when you go back to Marshall with him.
I will, but if I could go back 1 second, because sometimes people have a hard time finding it on the Alamo website. So I kind of wrote down directions. So Alamo Draft House Springfield, then you go to movies, then you go to Now Playing, and you scroll to the bottom. And on those 2 days, the 15th and the 18th, you will see it, and you can purchase tickets there. I just wanted people to know how to get tickets.
Absolutely, yeah. And I actually went to the day because I knew the days.
Yeah, you have to know the day.
Yeah, exactly, to click on it. But you can find it if you search. But,
right.
But yeah, I mean, how was the Kansas City reception, and what do you anticipate tomorrow night?
It was good. Now I know Springfield, because of Missouri State and the fans and all of Art's fans were great, of course, but the Kansas City Chiefs fans and his friends, he had people come in from all over the country, and it was a great reception. And we had between 275 and 300 in Springfield, and we had over 200 in Kansas City. So a lot of people have already seen this. I'm assuming we'll get around 100 or so in Marshall. There's really no way to know, but great reception. And after the Kansas City premiere, Art's birthday was, I don't know if he ever talked about it, but his birthday was that Tuesday. So we celebrated his 70th birthday after the premiere with a big cake. And I think he he was surprised about that. So,
That's
and he has
awesome.
family in there. Chris, his son, had not seen it in Springfield. So to have his grandkids and Jacqueline, his wife, and Chris to see it, and a lot of his friends here, I think it was very meaningful to him.
That's so great. And again, I do the show with Art now in the mornings. Ned and I and Art come together on the starting lineup Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. on the new 1021 FM. Dena's going to be our guest on Friday to talk a lot about the things we're going to touch on today. Just we'll touch in more detail today. But Art comes on the 8 o'clock hour. I know he wants to be a part of that. And I've been teasing him all week that we're going to find what kind of a diva he was to deal with on this project, Brad Pitt-esque or whatever. But
Yeah.
kind of take us back to how you came up with the idea, how you found out about Art's story, how this all began.
It was really crazy because as a filmmaker, like I said, I've done 4 short documentaries, and this is my first feature film. A feature is anything over 40 minutes. But Art and his wife Lisa came to a screening of 2 of my short documentaries in Springfield over a year ago, year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. And my good friend Patty Swan and her husband Tim are good friends of Art and Lisa. In fact, Patty Swan grew up with Lisa in Monette, so they're good friends since they were babies. Anyway, they brought Art and Lisa to my premiere of Small Town Girl, Big Heart, and Mildred's Escape. So it's a World War II story. She's like 97 now, but they really enjoyed it. We went to dinner first and all that. But it wasn't until after that was over, several months later, everybody is always telling me, "Oh, I have a story you have to do." They're giving me books their mom wrote or something about their cousin or something. And there's a lot of great stories out there, it'd be great to tell, but I kind of know creatively when I hear it. And
Mhm.
it was my nephew, and it was Ross Murray, my nephew in Springfield, Missouri, with RB Murray Company. He's like, I was thinking that Art was in the audience for your last screening. He would be a great story. And I had gone to dinner with him. I had met him a couple times, but it did not cross my mind. And in that moment, I knew that I had to do it. And I was going to take a little break after my last one because it had just done the film festival circuit. I didn't get to take a break because I knew Art was retiring. And I know his health is kind of vulnerable. So I'm like, I've got to get him calling a football game and a baseball game and a basketball game. So we filmed for probably, 13, 14 months all around. And we went to Dallas and I filmed Brad Sham, as you saw,
Mhm.
because the voice of the Dallas Cowboys, because he worked in Dallas for a while. I don't think a lot of people knew that. So they might have read something about his story, but to have it come to life on the big screen with his family, his caregivers, and people that love him, is great to interview Mitch Holtis here in Kansas City and Dr. Mike Monaco, the chief's doctor, and then a lot of friends in Springfield. The last documentary I did, we did 6 interviews, and that was a lot, 6 or 7
Yeah.
interviews, 16 interviews for Art's documentary. So we had to take all the footage of the 40 hours or whatever footage we have and pare it all down and to get it into one less than an hour documentary. So it's not easy, but I hopefully we captured the story really well.
And that was my question: is how many hours of footage did you have,
Mhm.
and why an hour? I mean, why could you not go an hour 15 or an hour and a half?
I could, but it's a documentary and you've got so many things there. You don't want it to drag. You want to get the key moments and the key parts without, being redundant because everybody's telling the same story about Art. Everybody has similar stories about working with him and about his illness and how that affected them. But you got to bring it into something, interesting that will hold their attention for that long.
What was the most challenging part of the documentary and the filming? I mean, was it tracking people down? And what was Art's reaction initially when you said you wanted to do this?
I called him up. That was the first thing I did to say, we're thinking about doing a documentary on you. And he was honored. He honestly said he was honored and he was really happy about it because he'd seen my work and he thought I would. But I didn't let him see the final thing until Springfield. He saw a rough,
Wow.
he saw a rough draft of all the interviews because I wanted to make sure he saw what people were saying and he was okay with that. And then after that, he didn't see the movie with the original score or the song until the night of. He's kind of like, "You won't let me see it?" I'm like, "No, not on your computer. You have to see it on the big screen." But biggest challenge, I mean, trying to figure out who were the best people to interview. Of course, Art gave me the list of who he wanted, but then he forgot some people. And I'm like, "Well, what about Corey Riggs? And what about, what about Dan Israel?" And honestly, I had talked to Dan. I was scheduled to interview Dan Israel, which is the executive producer of Chiefs Radio Network. And he said, "Well, I can't do that day. I'm going to be out of town." So we scheduled a different day to do it with Mitch Holtis at the, Chiefs headquarters. And it wasn't maybe a couple weeks later that I find out he had passed. So, I mean, in filming and you're in this industry, you never know what's going to happen. Or, when you get there, all of our shoots went pretty well. I mean, the interviews and everything went pretty well. Getting Art to call games was great. Like the booth he was in to call the football games was so tiny. That was a little bit of a challenge to do that. But we had a great director, photographer, and editor, and that's Michael Dean. And he was great, Dean Mensch. And then also we brought in another Brian Correll to help with the editing because we needed to get it done. And honestly, a lot of sleepless nights to make sure we got it done. He did not want to wait till next spring. He wanted to get it done this year. So it was a scramble because usually it could take several years to do a documentary. And we got this done pretty record time.
That's awesome. I'm in the Medicare space as a career, so I know about HIPAA and things like that. Were the doctors and health workers, were they hesitant at first to talk, or how did you get around that and make them open up? Because the doctor stuff was just fascinating to hear the doctors in
Yeah.
Kansas City talk about it. Yeah.
And Dr. Monaco obviously is the chief doctor, but he didn't actually have any direct contact
Yeah,
with this care. That's
it's
why we
true.
used
Yeah.
him to talk about West Nile virus and just kind of more in general terms and what he thought he had and what he thought of Art. And the caregivers, yeah, they were happy to talk about, how how he was when he was there. And I think the reason it was easy on that part is because Art was all in. Art never told me no. Whenever I said we want to do this or we want to do this and we want to have you come 3 hours early to your baseball game because we're going to have you get on the field and we're going to take some shots for the for the opening scene and all this. And he's like, "What am I going to do after that?" And I'm like, "Well, we'll go have a drink." So we did that, and he was okay then.
Yeah, he said he's talked to you more than he has his wife in the last year or so. Is that accurate?
Probably so. I don't know how much they talk, but and sometimes I have to text him or call him multiple times a day, especially when it comes to like the tickets and who are the donors and the VIP people that need tickets. And so that was kind of a scramble trying to get all that done. And there's always something, especially I've never done anything with three premieres, and I'm not sure many filmmakers have done three like in 2 weeks.
Wow.
So it's a little bit of a challenge, but the first two went great, and we're hoping Marshall will be the same.
Your Butterfly Road Productions, your company. Tell us about its formation and kind of take us back to your history from Glendale to Drury and how you got into this side of the world.
I was always trying to figure out what my passion was, what I was supposed to be doing with my life. And I was a cheerleader at Glendale. It was great. Then I went to Drury when they had that amazing, I should have looked it up, that amazing basketball team where we went to the NAIA National Championship and we
1978.
won. We
Yeah.
won. Yeah, the amazing players that were on the team then. That was a long time ago. So I went from Drury and moved to Kansas City, met my husband. We've been married 35 years, have two children. I have Kristen, she's 43 from my first husband. And then I have my son who is 33. So they both have birthdays coming up. But anyway, I came back and I tried everything. I tried so many things. I had several businesses. I had one that was Corporate Protocol International, and I took a lot of classes in Washington, D.C. about how to, you know, deal with people if you're doing business in China, if you're doing business in Japan or Mexico, and things you shouldn't do. So I did that for a while. My background though is nonprofit management. So I did fundraising and nonprofit, and my first jobs were Chamber of Commerce. Chamber of Commerce. I worked at the Kansas City Chamber of Commerce. And then I worked at the Olathe Chamber of Commerce, and then I ended up running that as the executive director interim for a few years. And then I went with somebody that worked with me there to be the fundraising development director for the American Heart Association. So a lot of nonprofit work. And during that time, I was doing acting. I got an agent, not a great actress, and I couldn't really sing. I did some musical theater, but I was just like watermelon, watermelon. But I really enjoyed it. But I got involved with film organizations, the independent, the IFCKC, and Women in Film and TV. I got involved here in Kansas City, and people were bringing in their films that they'd done, and I'm like, I think I can do this. But I was scared to death. I waited another year or two before I decided to do it, and it was 10 minutes long. My first
Wow.
one. I'm always afraid, when you're doing a documentary, you're doing somebody's life, and you're like, what if they don't like it? What if I don't do it justice? And that is a real fear until you show it to them. And so far, all of the people that I've done documentaries on really, really enjoyed their stories and how they told it. I think it's just, I think it's a God thing that some of the things that happened in this documentary, I think that, that's how I got my passion at 60. I started my company in 2018.
Okay. Okay. Awesome.
So
Was there any particular scene or portion of the Art Voice Unbroken documentary that really hit home with you, or you just look back and go, man, I didn't realize that interview segment was that good?
there were several of them. Dr. Monaco's talking about the virus itself. A lot of people don't have that history. Mitch Holtis, I had no idea that Mitch was such a man of faith. He
Mhm.
really relied on his faith, and I didn't realize he was the one that recommended Art for the Chiefs radio network, that he was there for 16 years. And Corey Riggs was wonderful. I mean, Dennis Heim, he hasn't got to see it yet, but Dennis Heim talking about the day they went to the game in
Yeah.
Arkansas when he started feeling sick when he got home. All those really brought it home. And what's so different about, I think, this documentary is there's a lot of levity. There's some great moments where Lisa, his wife, talks about, I don't really like sports. I mean, everybody laughs at those parts. I mean, there's some really
Yeah.
funny parts. So it's not all, you know, um, doom and gloom and
Yeah.
survival, but it gets into that, but then it ends on such a high note because how he came through that, he was not supposed to have come through that.
Were there? I was amazed by how well Chris and Kathleen and Lisa held it together, for
Yes.
the interviews on such a subject. Were there takes that you had to maybe throw out, or is that the way they were? I mean, they were
That's just exactly the way they were. And I know Art says,
wow.
oh, Chris is the real hero. Well, no, Art's the hero. But I couldn't have scripted it any better to have Chris be almost like the narrator of exactly
Mhm.
what happened when, because Art didn't know. And, Lisa and Kathleen were just, they were trying to, get by and everything. But he just told it how it was. No, we didn't have to say start over hardly at all. I mean, they just described their experiences, and it ended up being great.
That's awesome. What so the subject came up at the showing a couple weeks ago. What's the next step for getting this documentary into? I know you said there's some festivals and things like that, but what's the process to get it on like Netflix or Amazon or Prime or things like that?
I'm going to be working on distribution for things like that. People are suggesting ESPN or other places like that. I have already had interest before they even saw it at the Springfield Public Television and other public television. But honestly, since I haven't done that before, I had to do a lot of research on that. But in the immediate future, I've already submitted it to like 5 film festivals across the country. Some are Christian film festivals, some are more local film festivals, some are all over the country, and I kind of know which ones I want to submit to. And you have to wait and see if you get in, and if you get in, then when it's going to be. And I have been really fortunate in the fact that my other documentaries, especially the last two, we've won quite a few awards, so that was great. And then we'll go to distribution after that. It won't be on my website probably till 2027.
Awesome. Well, and if you're looking for another one, I work with an 84-year-old guy on the radio too, named Ned Reynolds. The
Yes.
Ned Reynolds
Yeah.
story may be one that needs to be told at some time, but he will be a diva. I can promise you that. And you may regret that a couple weeks in. I'm just kidding,
Well,
but
no,
love both. Huh?
Ned actually, I grew up listening to Ned because my parents watched the news every night, and it was a channel they listened to. So I listened to Ned do the sports every night, and when I was growing up. So I'm like, oh my gosh. And he was there at the screening in Springfield. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's wonderful.
That's Ned Reynolds, yeah. So,
Yeah.
well, I get the honor and privilege of working with both of them. I couldn't be happier with that, and just again a wonderful job on the documentary. Two more showings in Springfield. Mark down your calendars this Saturday at 12:30 p.m. at the Alamo Draft House, and then next Tuesday, November 18th, 6:55 p.m. at the Alamo Draft House. So
Right.
go online at the website, find the Voice Unbroken picture there, book your tickets, and go see it. Just a great public or
Thank you.
production there, Dena.
We might also
Great
try
job.
to bring it back to Kansas City sometime in the spring because I'd like Mitch, who couldn't come, and Dr. Monaco, and several people here in Kansas City. They wanted me to play it again so they could come and see it. So we might do something in the spring, and then we'll go with the film festivals. But I just wanted to say that it was such an honor working with Art. It was so fun to work with him. He was his attitude is amazing. That's why he's still here. He still survived. But he's been willing to do whatever I whatever I ask him to do. A lot of media interviews, a lot of whatever. But he is just an inspiration, and I'm just really blessed that I'm able to call him a friend, and I was able to tell the story.
Well, as Art would say, you knocked it out of the park, Dena. So congratulations on a job well done, and thanks for your time. And we'll talk to you on the radio this week as well.
Sounds good. Thanks, Scott.
You bet. Dena Hildebrand, the producer director of Voice Unbroken, again coming back to the Alamo Draft House this Saturday and next Tuesday. 55 minutes, definitely worth your time. Take the kids if you need a little pick me up. Story about perseverance and faith and just determination, and like I said, taking away the attitude and the teamwork from Art's wife and children, and how they all work together to get him back to where he is today, which is fighting with me on radio 5 days a week for 1 hour there, but couldn't love it anymore, and wouldn't have it any other way. So we'll go to our next segment. Thanks, Dena, for her time. Ozark Sports Scene Podcast. Second segment today. It's a double feature, double header. I could call this Women in Video. You got to be careful how you say that because you never know how it's going to be taken. But one of my longtime friends and former coworker over at Drury during basketball, the national championship run, she and Carol Oliver, myself, Brad Oliver, we worked on a lot of things back then to make people enjoy Drury basketball games. But welcome in Michele Boswell. Michele, thanks.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks for having me.
You betcha. And of course, your full-time job is marketing director for Hogan Land Title, but you've got a side passion that we wanted to talk about as we're talking about video and productions and all that. You've got a fun podcast called My Mom Calls It Soccer. And it's you and your mom and your son kind of breaking down soccer.
That's right.
For idiots like me that know nothing about it. I'm your target audience, am I not?
You are. I was the target audience as well. Yes.
Well, tell us about the first of all the concept that came up. Yeah.
So basically, people who know me, I have two older sons who are baseball kids, and I've always been a sports fan: baseball, basketball, football. Chase is my youngest and is really interested in what I call soccer and what he calls football. And as he, so it kind of became a thing with us where I would tease him, and I always referred to it as soccer, and it was real annoying to him. And but he's been trying for the last couple of years to teach me about the game and to get me up to speed, to get me interested in watching it. And so finally, last year, we made a couple of trips. We went and saw a couple of Copa America games, and seeing it at that level and in person, it started to click for me. And then we made a decision to go to England last fall. and go to a couple of Premier League games. And so it's always me, Chase, and my mom. And so we took off and we went to Tottenham Hotspur, and we went to Anfield and watched Liverpool play. And after that experience, I really started to get into it, but I still had a lot of questions. There were things I don't understand about the rules. It's just like anytime you start something new where you don't know exactly what you're looking at or what you should be watching for. And so Chase has spent a lot of time trying to help me learn. And I thought, he's so patient about it. He can speak to it in such a easy and simple manner that I can get it. I think there are other people out here who could benefit from that. And so we thought, well, let's just start a podcast and put it out there.
I think my favorite part is, I think you explained is, we like to think of ourselves as the people who ask the dumb questions about soccer so you don't have to.
Exactly.
And I just think of all those years I spent sitting in a bag chair, at youth soccer with my kids, and thinking I know what's going on, and I have no idea. And I'm in sports. I was a sports writer and doing sports talk radio. And I can only imagine a lot of the moms and dads out there that are watching going, I don't know what happens here. And especially if they turn it on a big time level, with professionals and the World Cup and all that. You touched on something. I just want to commend Chase for his patience, because, it's very clear by his facial expressions that you're hitting him with
Yes.
things that he's like, oh my God, Mom. But he doesn't say, oh my God, Mom. He just rolls with it.
Right.
Yeah. And is that his personality coming out now in that?
Yeah, he's very. Yeah. Yes. So he is very patient. One of my good friends from high school said he really ought to be a teacher. You can tell that he's a little frustrated with me, but he's always kind to me. And a lot of times it's something he's told me before, and I'm just struggling to retain it. But it is the role that I want to play, is asking these questions for people who don't know, because if you've not grown up around the sport and you've not followed it, especially European soccer, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of games, there's league play, there's all of these tournaments within their leagues. And then there's Champions League, which is the best of all of Europe playing against each other. And so if you want to dive in and follow, it can be kind of intimidating because you don't exactly understand what you're trying to follow.
How did you get Grandma, your mom, Carol, to go along with this?
So my mom is a great sport about anything. And so she, we just ask her to come along, and she's always like, yeah, when are we leaving? What are we doing? And then when we started on the podcast, we really wanted her to have a role in it. And when we first started, we kind of used her as the person to talk about geographically what game we were featuring or talking about. Her role has gotten much larger because on social media, she is the most popular person on our podcast. That's the comments we get. Everyone likes to hear her talk about things. And so we just include her more and more, and she's always game to do whatever we want. In fact, when we get done filming, she's coming over here to film a couple of things that we're doing for social media.
Awesome. Will this spin off into, my mom calls it bowling, because she's a very good bowler in town?
She's an excellent bowler, and I've given up at this point. If I am not good at bowling or understand it, I got no chance, because that's my childhood was spent in a bowling alley between both my parents. So
absolutely. So tell us where people can find it, what platforms, how often do you do the podcast?
So we typically film every week. So this week is international break, so we won't film probably this week, but typically every week we are on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and it's just called, my mom calls it soccer. And then if you are like, hey, I don't want to watch the whole podcast, but I want to kind of follow along, we're on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. Again, all of those are at My Mom Calls It Soccer. And we are expanding a little bit. We started with the podcast, but we really are trying to lean into this idea of we want to be the resource for new fans coming into the game. And so we, on the podcast, we did something called the matchup, where we took 7 people who did not follow soccer or have a team. And over the summer, we did a quiz with them, and based on that, matched them up. We gave them some teams to date over the summer, and then matched them up with teams for this season. We're having varying levels of success. Brad Oliver, who you mentioned earlier, is our most successful matchup. We matched him with Bayern Munich, who has not lost a game yet. They just finally had a draw this past weekend, but Brad has really connected with his team and is having a good time. But we kind of, in season, we're still wanting to do things to bring more people in. So we've started something called the speed matchup. And that's what I would love to meet up with you sometime in the next couple of weeks and speed match you up with a team. We do 5 rapid fire questions. And based on your answers, we've got a little, I can't think of the right word for it, but basically it gives you some teams that we think these would be the best teams for you. You can follow them through the rest of the season, see if you end up having a match. And so we're just doing a lot of different, smaller, shorter content things like that as well to try to connect with new fans.
Well, I'm in for that if you need me. So yeah,
Okay.
I think it'd be fun because I literally know nothing about it. And you know, one of the things I like about is your production quality is so good. The intros and you know the quality. Is there somebody behind the scenes that's helping with that?
So in the beginning, when I started, Abby Oliver, Brad's youngest daughter, got me off the ground. And so she was doing a lot of the editing and helping me with that. She's a full-time finishing up at Drury. So, you know, she's not been able to help as much with that. But I decided this fall, I really decided I really want to dive into this, lean into it. And so we're actually working with Oliver Raines Group. So with Brad's older daughter, Emily, and with Brad as well to really help with production. I've got a new logo. We've got new branding that were just rolled out this week. And we're really trying to promote and push to get more of a national pickup on it. So we're leaning into it.
Awesome. Well, again, tell people what it's called and where they can find it.
It's called My Mom Calls It Soccer, and you can find us to watch the full-length podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, and follow us on social media on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook at My Mom Calls It Soccer.
Very well done. And, of course, Michele Boswell, the original Boz. You know, forget Brian Bosworth. You are the Boz. Always a great chance. I'd love to catch up with you and count me in for the speed team matching thing too. Okay.
Deal. And you can talk about it then on the podcast and let everybody know how it goes.
I will. Sounds good. Thanks, Michele.
Thanks, Scott.
You bet. Michele Boswell, and My Mom Calls It Soccer. It's a lot of fun. Encourage everyone to check it out. I'm a soccer idiot, I guess, or football idiot if you want to be specific about it, but very well done, and wish her the best of luck. And all those people that are sitting out there at, you know, Allison Sports Complex or Lake Country and have no idea what they're watching, it would be a good watch for you to get caught up in that series as well. Big thanks to Dena Hildebrand for her segment here. We're talking about Voice Unbroken. Again, your chance to go see that coming up this Saturday and next Tuesday. Get your tickets now because only one theater showing for each one of those will be in use there at Alamo. So would highly encourage you to do that. Again, we have a morning talk show as part of Around the Ozark Sports Scene, our Midwest Family Marketing stations. We are now on 102.1 The One, 102.1 FM. It's a great station, powerful signal. Myself, Art Hains, and Ned Reynolds are on each morning from 7 to 9 a.m. Talking local sports, national sports. Great guests. We do an Ozarks Legends segment today. We had on Melody Howard, and Melody Howard Elliott caught up with her and her life since she was a Lady Bears and Marshall Lady Jays basketball standout. So I hope you'll tune in there as well. Big thank you to our sponsors. Thompson Sales are located at 1555 East Independence in South Springfield. Thompson Boys have been in business since 1919. They are the area's home for the largest selection of Cadillac, Buick, and GMC cars and trucks, new and used vehicles, and they got a great service department to take care of you. long after you leave the lot with that precious new vehicle. I've been buying from them since the 1980s. Love how they treat me like family. That's what they do with everyone at Thompson Sales. Again, go see the guys at Thompson Sales because the Thompson boys are dealing. And a big thanks to our latest sponsor, Colton's Steakhouse in Springfield. Colton's is located just down the street from Thompson's at 2020 East Independence. We recommend you buy a car and then go celebrate at Colton's with a great lunch or dinner there, because you're not going to find a better selection of steaks, barbecue, burgers, salads, the appetizers they have at Colton's, those hot rolls and the butter. I challenge you to try the Montana burger at Colton's. I've not had a better burger in Springfield, and if there's one out there, I've yet to experience it. So go see Thomas Orr and his staff at Colton Steakhouse, 2020 East Independence in Springfield. That's going to do it for this week's edition. Again, thanks to our special guests. We will see you next week on Around the Ozarks Sports Scene.